You once believed that if you showed up often enough, people would eventually recognize your value. You thought that if you kept texting, explaining, proving yourself, and even lowering your pride just a little more, you would finally be acknowledged. But the harsh truth is that some people were never lacking your attention, they were only lacking the fear of losing you. And when that fear is gone, all your efforts become fuel for their ego. The more you chase, the more they feel justified. The more you explain, the more assured they become that if they stay silent long enough, you will eventually crawl back. People say that silence means losing. That is wrong. In the game of emotions, what truly turns the tables is not shouting, but the space that is maintained with strength. When you stop chasing the one who replaced you, when you withdraw all your energy from the game, something subtle begins to happen. At first, they remain confident. They believe you will return as you always have. But as each day passes, your absence stops being a momentary reaction and becomes a state. That state carries a clear message. The game is over, and you are no longer a player. Stoic philosophy does not teach you to seek revenge. It teaches you to take back the access to your emotions from the hands of others. When you stop reacting, you reclaim your sovereignty. When you stop demanding explanations, you reclaim your self-respect. When you stop sending any signal, you force them to face a truth they have always avoided. You are no longer there. There is no longer a presence to be taken for granted, no attention to be used as emotional support, and no one left to absorb the responsibility for their feelings. This video is not about pretending to be strong. It is about becoming truly strong by stopping a behavior that humiliates yourself. You do not need to act happy, hint on social media, or send indirect messages. You only need to disappear from their life with unshakable calm. That silence is not loud, not theatrical, yet it carries the weight of a verdict. And while they struggle to find answers, you use that empty space to rebuild yourself. That is the true victory of the Stoic, not to make others suffer, but to no longer allow others to make you suffer. Since childhood, we were taught that if we are sincere and persistent enough, we will be rewarded. That love is something that can be earned through effort, but no one told us that some people use that persistence as a tool to feed their ego. When you keep trying to prove your worth to someone who has already replaced you, it is no longer love. It is self-degradation. And that is not affection, it is self-humiliation. The truth is, in every relationship, the one who stops first is usually the one who begins to grow up. The one being chased sinks deeper into the illusion that they are more valuable. When you keep texting, keep explaining, and keep trying to be heard, you are unconsciously sending a message. I am willing to be heard as long as you still pay attention to me. Every unanswered message and every cold reaction from them becomes a measure of your tolerance. And the more you try, the more assured they become that you will never leave. A Stoic never chases what has chosen to walk away, because they understand that when you have to beg for attention, you have already given away all control over your emotions. They choose silence not because they are indifferent, but because they respect themselves enough not to plead for affection. That silence is not defeat. It is the act of stopping at the right time. In the game of emotions, the one who keeps chasing believes they are fighting for love, but in reality, they are fighting to keep their place in someone else's life. The one who stays silent is no longer fighting. They are rebuilding their own life. The difference between the two lies in one decision. One chooses to cling, while the other chooses to let go. And the paradox is that it is only when you stop chasing that the other person begins to feel the loss. Stopping the chase is not giving up. It is reclaiming your energy from a place that no longer deserves it. It is not the end. It is the beginning of freedom. Because you cannot run toward peace if you are still chasing what once broke you. Intentional silence is one of the most powerful psychological moves a person can use. It is not an attack, but a way to regain control. When you stop reacting, you throw the other person's mind into uncertainty, and nothing frightens people more than that. As long as they receive your reactions, they feel they still hold power. But when you fall completely silent, they lose the ability to predict. No more information, no more signals, no more traces to hold on to. And it is that very uncertainty that begins to unsettle them. In psychology, this is called a reflexive crisis. When someone who is used to being responded to suddenly receives nothing, they begin to feel disoriented. At first, they think you are playing the silent game just to make them miss you. But as the silence stretches on, their mind starts to spiral into doubt and regret. They imagine, speculate, and question what went wrong, and in that process, they become the ones haunted by it. The Stoic understands this power, but they do not use it to manipulate. They remain silent not to hurt others, but to stop hurting themselves. Because every reaction is a form of giving power away, and every attempt to explain places your emotions in someone else's hands. Silence, therefore, is not avoidance, but a conscious act of self-protection carried out with dignity. When you stay silent with intention, you are no longer passive. You become the observer, calm, self-controlled, untouched by the emotional games. And it is precisely when you stop speaking that the truth begins to speak for you. Not all silence is the same. Some people stay silent to make others worry, some to hide their pain, and others to gain sympathy. But the Stoic chooses silence not to make anyone think, but because they no longer wish to be bound. The difference lies in the motive. Proud silence comes from ego, while Stoic silence comes from wisdom. Proud silence often carries expectations. You do not speak, yet you still wait for a message, a signal, or some form of acknowledgement. You stay quiet outwardly, but your mind keeps revolving around the other person. Every minute that passes without a response makes you restless. That is not freedom, it is just another form of dependence. You try to appear strong, but in reality, you are still waiting to be saved. In contrast, Stoic silence comes when you have seen everything you need to see and realize there is nothing left to say. You are silent not because you want to prove something, but because you have accepted it. You do not need others to understand, you do not need them to admit their faults, and you do not need them to return. The peace you find does not come from anyone's reaction, but from your decision to stop reacting. A Stoic does not use silence to manipulate, but to withdraw from unhealthy attachments. Their silence is the result of awareness, not anger. When they walk away quietly, it is not punishment, it is protection of the mind. Because sometimes maturity is not about saying everything, but about knowing when nothing more needs to be said. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is the most courageous act of reclaiming control over your mind. Most pain does not come from someone leaving, but from us continuing to let them live inside our thoughts, memories, and emotions. You can block their number, delete their pictures, unfollow them, yet if you still check whether they think of you, the cord remains uncut. The Stoic understands that to truly be free from someone, you must cut ties both externally and internally. Externally means no messaging, no searching, no watching. Internally means no analyzing, no reasoning, no justifying what happened. Each time you try to understand why they hurt you, you unknowingly place them back at the center of your mind. Only when you accept that no answer is needed anymore do you become truly free. A new boundary is formed in that very moment. You do not need to say, "I will never let anyone hurt me again." You just need to live in a way that gives no one the chance to do so. Your calmness becomes your strongest wall. Others may knock, but they no longer hold the key. Emotional detachment does not mean hatred. It is simply the clarity that whatever no longer nourishes your soul must be released. The Stoic chooses to let go not because they forget, but because they no longer wish to be bound by memories. When the mind is freed, silence stops being an effort and becomes instinct. And within that instinct, you find yourself again, peaceful, steady, and beyond the reach of anyone's control. Time is the most loyal ally of silence. In the first few days, they may see your absence as a temporary outburst of anger. They believe that if they stay quiet long enough, you will grow weak and return as before. But as weeks turn into months and you continue to remain calm, they begin to realize that something has changed. For the first time, they feel fear, not the fear of losing you, but the fear of losing the control they once had. In psychology, there is a phenomenon called the gap effect. When someone who is used to receiving reactions suddenly gets nothing, their mind instinctively tries to fill the silence. They begin to imagine, to question, and slowly become obsessed. Each day without hearing from you, that silence becomes a mirror reflecting their own insecurities. When you are no longer present, they are forced to face themselves, something they have always avoided. And in that process, their ego begins to crumble piece by piece. Time makes silence heavier. What was once just a distance gradually turns into reality. The Stoic understands this, which is why they are never in a hurry. They let time speak for them, allowing their absence to become a lesson the other person will never forget. You do not need to do anything. You only need to remain steadfast. Because when you maintain your silence long enough, what once was pain transforms into strength. And eventually they will realize that the silence they once dismissed has become the very thing that haunts them for life. Keeping silent for a few days is instinct, but maintaining it for weeks or months is discipline. And the Stoic does not rely on emotions to preserve that calm. They rely on principles. Because emotions change by the hour, but principles remain. The first tool is control. The Stoic always asks themselves, is this within my control? If the answer is no, they stop. What others think, feel, or do is beyond your power, but your reactions, your calmness, and your choice of silence, that is where your true strength lies. Each time you feel the urge to text or justify yourself, pause and remind yourself, I cannot control them, I can only control myself. That reminder is the shield that guards you from impulsiveness. The second tool is reflection. Instead of letting their mind drift through memories, the Stoic writes down their thoughts. They record them, then observe them. When you write, you separate your emotions from yourself. You begin to see pain as an object, no longer as part of your identity. And within that distance, you start to see the truth. You do not need to react because reactions never change anything. They only drain you. The third tool is redirection. The energy once spent on checking, waiting, and overthinking is now redirected. The Stoic chooses to train the body, learn, create, or simply nurture the inner life. Each time you feel tempted to look back, focus your mind on something tangible in the present. Because focus is the only current that quiets the noise in your head. These three tools, control, reflection, and redirection, are the pillars of Stoic silence. No one can stay calm forever if their inner world is still in chaos. But once you master these three, your silence stops being an effort and becomes your natural state, a conscious silence, steady, composed, and unshakable. When you have been silent long enough, when they begin to clearly feel that you have truly withdrawn from the game, that is when they start to test you. Not because they miss you, but because they want to see if they still have any influence over you. Subtle signals will appear. Small actions that seem harmless but carry a clear purpose. To trigger a reaction, a casual message asking, "How have you been?" A light comment under an old post, a photo with a forced smile, or a sudden memory resurfacing on social media. That is not care, it is a test. They do not need a reply, they only need proof that you are still there. A scene, a like, even the smallest reaction is a confirmation that they still occupy space in your mind. And once they have that, the old cycle begins again. You once more become the one controlled by emotions without realizing it. The Stoic recognizes that game immediately. They do not react, do not explain, and do not try to appear cold. They simply do not participate. When a signal appears, they observe it like someone watching the weather, aware that the rain may come, but without stepping outside to check. Because the Stoic understands that reacting is the fastest way to lose self-control. Responding with neutrality does not mean passive silence. It is a conscious choice. If communication is unavoidable, they keep their words brief, polite, and emotionally neutral. No joking, no reminiscing, no reopening of doors. Every answer ends with a period, not an ellipsis. Because they know that leaving even the smallest gap invites the other person to step back in and pull them into the same old pit. What confuses those who once hurt you the most is not your anger, but your calmness. Because anger still shows emotion, while calmness is proof that you have moved on. When they test you, remember, you do not need to prove your strength. You only need to stay non-reactive. Neutral silence, maintained long enough, will make them realize one thing. They no longer have access to your emotions. There will come a time when, after all their failed attempts, they come back for real. No more vague signals, no more indirect approaches. This time they return with words that sound sincere. I miss you. I've changed. Now I finally understand your value. It may sound different, but the essence remains the same. Because true remorse is not in what they say, but in what they consistently do afterward. The Stoic understands that a late return rarely comes from love. It comes from the emptiness they could no longer bear. They want to fill a void, not rebuild a relationship. When that happens, your first step should not be to react, but to observe. Observe where their motive comes from. Is it from genuine affection or from fear of losing control? The one who replaced you now realizes that no one else can, but that does not mean they deserve to come back. Emotion alone is not enough. Real change is required, and true change never happens after just a few weeks of loneliness. If you choose silence, it is not cruelty. It is how you protect what you have rebuilt. But if you must face them, keep the composure of a Stoic, calm, neutral, and concise. There is no need to revisit the past or debate who was right or wrong. You only need to show them that the person they once knew no longer exists. You no longer need to prove your worth, because your calmness already says everything. Sometimes their return is not an opportunity, but the universe's final test. It comes to see whether you have truly learned the lesson. If you open the door, everything will repeat. But if you smile and move on, the cycle ends. The Stoic chooses the latter, not out of coldness, but because they know that once you must beg to be respected, all respect that follows is meaningless. Remember, not everyone who comes back deserves to be welcomed. Sometimes the strongest answer is still silence, and that silence is not meant to hurt them, but to protect the peace you fought for with countless tears. When the emotional storm has passed, when silence stops being an effort and becomes your natural state, that is when your rebuilding begins. Not to prove to anyone that you have moved on, but to reconstruct yourself. Because Stoic silence is not merely a coping strategy, it is the foundation of a new life, one where you no longer live by reaction, but by choice. Begin with the body, because the body is the root of all emotions. The Stoic considers caring for the body an act of virtue, as it reflects respect for one's own existence. When you eat mindfully, exercise, sleep well, and walk each morning, you are sending a quiet message to yourself. I am still here. I am still moving forward. No major changes are needed, only small steps repeated each day, because physical discipline is the foundation of mental stability. Next comes the mind. When you fall into silence, the mind at first becomes noisy. It pulls you back to the past, replaying stories that were never finished. Do not resist it, observe it. The Stoic trains the mind by viewing emotions as clouds drifting across the sky, neither holding on nor pushing away. They read, write, meditate, and breathe slowly. They learn to turn loneliness into a space for awareness. The mind does not need to forget. It only needs to understand that some things are no longer worth remembering. And finally, your values. This is the deepest part, and also the one that silence reveals most clearly. When you stop chasing anyone, you begin to hear your true inner voice asking, what brings me peace? What truly matters? The Stoic believes that no one can take away your peace unless you hand it over. Therefore, they redefine their values, not based on others' approval, but on the consistency between their actions and their beliefs. Rebuilding yourself does not require noise. It happens in quiet mornings, in a deep breath, in learning to smile at yourself after everything. Because the peace you are seeking does not come from someone's return, but from no longer needing them to feel complete. In the end, what you realize is not the pain of being replaced, but the strength hidden within your own silence. You no longer want revenge. You no longer need to prove yourself, and you no longer need anyone to recognize your worth. Because now you see clearly. The one who truly needed to see that worth was you. When you stop chasing the one who left, you lose nothing. On the contrary, you regain everything: dignity, self-respect, and peace within your soul. They once thought you would never stop. They believed that if they stayed silent long enough, you would come back as you always did. But this time, you do not return, not because you are angry, but because you understand. You understand that love does not always mean staying, and leaving does not mean hatred. You choose silence, not to make someone else suffer, but to give yourself peace. That is the moment you no longer need to win, because you have already conquered yourself. The Stoics call this inner freedom, a kind of freedom no one can take away, because it does not come from promises or affection, but from the discipline of the mind. Every time you choose not to react, you strengthen your power. Every time you stay silent instead of explaining, you choose maturity. And with each day you walk forward without looking back, you are rewriting your life story in a tone that is calm and decisive. If this video resonates with you, leave a comment with just one word: enough. Enough of the pain, enough of chasing what is not worthy, enough of proving your value. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you will not miss the next Stoic lessons, where every video is a reminder that true strength is not about defeating others, but about no longer needing to prove anything to anyone. Choose yourself calmly, firmly, and with self-respect, because sometimes the greatest victory is not making someone regret losing you, but being strong enough not to go back. And once you reach that peace, no one will ever be able to take it from you again.